Hello, welcome to another thought experiment. I wanted to share with you some experiences that I've had being with manipulation and very coercive types of manipulation. Want to thank you again for being part of another thought experiment. I am David Barron, sometimes also known as Dantalian Jones. I have several examples of this type of manipulation, and I want you to sort of take them all in stride and determine what they have in common. It's fairly obvious. First of all, consider Robert Cialdini's influence through agreement, consistency and agreement, just getting someone to say yes consistently or agree to small things at a time and how that will empower them to do whatever else someone else tells them to do. So check that out. Robert Cialdini and influence through agreement and consistency. Now, my personal experience goes back to the 1980s. That gives you an idea of how old I am. And to my personal experience in what's called a large group awareness training. And to understand what a large group awareness training is, well, first of all, just go to Wikipedia. They go back to the 1970s, and it's about getting a group of people together and creating a personal experience that's motivating. And they're still around. Now, my personal experience with the large group awareness training was with a company at the time that was called LifeStream. Now there's another one called LifeSpring, but this is not it. This is called LifeStream. And if you want to know how the entire seminar was laid out, if you want to know how it was done, there's a website. It's called CameronFreeman.com. Let me share with you the web page, and we will go from there. Here we go. Now, to understand this, consider what it talks about the founder. Now, the founder was obviously a very admirable person. He lived by a motto, which he states right here. My life works in direct proportion to the commitments I make. That was spoken about during all of the LifeStream Basic Seminar. Your life will work in direct proportion to the commitments you make and keep. So it has this very strong emphasis on making commitments. And you would do a whole bunch of different exercises talking about trust. You'd hear a lot of motivating stories. You'd go through imagination exercises. You'd have, like many large group awareness trainings, you have to stand up and tell the group some sort of insight and then thank them for being honest and critical about what they experience you sharing. Um, and at the end, you're given to make commitments. And again, you've been pounded in over the course of a weekend, 2 nights, and like Thursday night, Friday night, and all of Saturday and Sunday. You've been pounded again and again about making commitments and keeping them. And of course, at the end, you have this insight, like many large group uh, awareness trainings will give you, and you make a commitment to share this with others, which it means enrolling other people the uh, in the course. Now, and I had that personal experience. What if you're interested in how all of this works? That website, which you're on right now, it will tell you all the details, pretty much as I read through it about here the first day of the LifeStream Basic Seminar. It's exactly like I remember it. So the fellow who wrote this actually was one of the leaders of the LifeStream movement for a while. And keep in mind, it goes back to making commitments. And making you a person who values the commitments you make and keeps them. And so it's very easy to encourage you to make certain commitments that may border on your personal ethics. Now, consider the power of that. Uh, and that's a form of very coercive influence. We'll talk about how to deal with that in a few moments. Now, there's another experience that NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, uses to sort of reframe how we make commitments and how to keep us engaged and committed in something that may not be to our benefit. This was used in Keith Raniere's cult NXIVM. You might remember this cult as the one who ultimately he had this hierarchy that as you grew within this cult and you were an attractive woman, you would become one of his sex slaves and be branded. So it's really horrendous. And one of the people who were able to leave that cult talks about how they committed people into this organization. And it starts off with everything being honest and well, seeming true. The first step is they agree that you are here at this training to work on yourself. The second step is people who are successful work on themselves. All of these seem accurate and true and reasonable. The third step is working on yourself can be very uncomfortable. Without understanding, when you are facing something that is challenging and uncomfortable, if you're there to work on yourself, you face it and you work through it. So when you are uncomfortable, it means sit with that discomfort and keep going. Now, all of that seems reasonable. However, what if through consistency and commitment, what they're asking to do is something that would have in the past violated your values, like becoming a sex slave? It happens, and it's a very slow and manipulative process. The last version of this that I want to demonstrate, or at least explain to you, came to me through the YouTube video about Dr. Ramani, I think her name is, who talks about narcissists. And she talks about how a woman who may or may not be a narcissist, but who can certainly very easily manipulate men, the very first thing that they would do is find the right man. They would tell them stories about how everyone has abandoned them, that they would be lost. At the same time, of course, they're love bombing this man that they're influencing, and they're getting him to commit again and again. I would never do this to you. I would not abandon you. And through that consistency and commitment, in this case, a woman, but believe me, it happens in all sorts of relationships. In this case, a woman would cause this man to do things far beyond what he'd normally commit to and be influenced by manipulation. So I want you to think about all of those and what they share in common. You may be aware of them personally in your life. What the boundary is, what will prevent you from doing that is knowledge. Just understanding it is the very first thing. On top of that, having a clear set of boundaries. And a boundary in relationships with other people is just a point where if you hear something, you just simply say, no, this is not something I'm willing to do. And keep in mind, this quality of manipulation makes boundaries very permeable. So set it very clearly in your mind what you are willing to do and not willing to do. And that will prepare you for this type of manipulation. And also be aware that anyone under the right circumstances, can be influenced in this way. Just because you know about this doesn't mean that you are not susceptible to it. So it takes a constant sort of sense of vigilance, but a profound understanding of this process is certainly going to help you. I would be very eager to hear your comments below. And if you're interested, I am working on developing a hypnosis training. This is a hypnosis training in which I will teach you the process that I use to help people, but it's also one you can apply during the training to benefit yourself. So if you're at all interested, keep in touch with me through the information from this channel and in the information below. And until then, I wish you the very best. Please take care. Bye.